you might not have the capability of changing the circumstance around you, but you can perceive it differently.
Yeah.
That like you had an accident.
You have that power.
You could have said like, fuck this sucks.
Yeah.
You know, like, but you decide like, this happened to me. I'm not gonna
gotta keep going.
You know, I'm not gonna cry myself to sleep every night. You know, I'm just gonna push through it. And I know that I'll be a better person because of it. And I'm grateful to be alive, you know, like all those
100%,
ideas, right?
100%. Yeah. I remember, one of my friends was talking to me about that. Actually, he's like, how the hell are you like so relaxed about all this? Like I would be freaking out. Like my arm is broken. I'm gonna have to wear a brace for 3 months. Like, and when you were sitting there, like in the hospital bed, like in my first day after my accident, I was just like cracking jokes, relaxing. Sure, I can give credit to some of the Norco because that was doing its job with the pain and stuff. But like it is what it is. Like I had already just moved on to it and was focusing on what the next step was. And he was like, how the hell do you do that? Because it's hard. It's a skill that you have to train too. Like recognizing the good and bad of it. It's not something that came naturally for me.
Yeah,
like,
definitely not. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sound 14 podcast. Welcome back, Saleem. How's it going?
It's going well, man. It's going well. It's been a busy month so far.
Really?
Glad to be back.
Yeah.
To be back.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it pretty much every year since this podcast started.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're right. Starting in 2019, then 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
That's bizarre. Year. That's awesome. I didn't think about that.
I know. And it's always a fun time, man. Whenever you come around, even last year, even though it was with Zoom, it was still like so fun to do it and just have a conversation with people after being or during that time where everybody's like quarantining and stuff. So
likewise,
it's always fun to do it with you. So thanks for taking the time.
Oh no, pleasure's mine, man. When you reached out, you sent me a text like, hey, would you be free to get back on the podcast? I'm like, of course. Yeah. I always have a blast doing this sort of stuff. And I always think it's cool having like a digital record of everything. You know,
I know,
like you
everything.
said, every
year
back. Every year back.
Go back.
Oh man. I was looking over the first one before I came here, and I was like, lots happened.
Yeah, lots happened.
Lots happened since 2019. My goodness.
I can't even look at those first ones because I'm so like focused on improving myself like during these conversations. And so like looking back, I'm like, how was I this naive in conversation?
Like, you did quite fine. I don't know. I had a good time. That conversation was great. I forgot what we talked about exactly. It was I know part of it was about TED, and then we talked about like space stuff. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, but lots changed. And one thing that you mentioned, like you came here with this brace.
I did.
Just share with everybody what happened.
Yeah. So I got in a motorcycle accident around August 25th. It's all right. Bike's not doing too good, to say the least. I mean, I'm like full of jokes about it.
That's the least concern. I mean, your health is definitely the most important.
Definitely. That's like the age old thing in the ambulance. They always like to joke about. It's like, oh, you know, first thing people do when they get conscious is they ask about the bike. It's like, buddy, you're not in condition to ask about the bike right now. So I crushed 3 of my vertebrae. I did require back surgery. Which was good. Have to wear a brace for about 3 months. I'm already 1 month in, which is good. I remember after the accident, I went to Orange Coast Medical. It was a trauma center because my arm was in pretty bad condition. So my right arm, it looks like I'm able to lift it. I'm wearing long sleeves now, but I have a huge scar from about like my elbow to like probably like right before my shoulder because they inserted a plate. I had a clean fracture. So my entire humerus bone was like broken in half. Yeah, in half, clean in half. Jeez. Like it would be bad. In the hospital, I had it splinted because I wasn't able to get surgery for a couple days. And like when you try and lift your arm, especially when I had to do PT to like get back walking again, you could tell like you lift your arm and then the front part moves. And there's a slight delay, and then you feel the back part move. Wow. And it doesn't feel connected. Yeah, it doesn't feel connected. I'm like, oh man, I'm glad this piece of wood is keeping my arm straight. But no, it's all right. All things considered, I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. I should get a full recovery in about a couple months. One thing I gotta say is wearing gear perhaps saved my life in the sense that I had a full set of gear. I like when I first started riding, I made sure I didn't skimp on the safety aspect of it because I knew how dangerous it was. So my helmet saved me in the sense that I had a light concussion after getting hit in the head twice when falling. and I was up and conscious in about like 3-4 minutes, which was amazing. And then the concussion was very light, no damage in that aspect. And I had full steel plates all over my body. So I had steel plates on my fingertips and my knuckles, my wrist, and most importantly, my back. So imagine if I fell and I fractured 3 vertebrae with a steel plate on, I might not be walking around if I didn't have that on. So,
luckily you didn't skimp on that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That's probably the most important part of the safety of a motorcycle, like, because everything's open, really.
You
can't.
No seatbelts.
Yeah, no seatbelts. Like, that would probably be even worse if you did have a seatbelt. Like, that would probably fuck a lot of people up.
Oh yeah. And it's a bizarre story about the gear too. Like, I'll go ahead and sum it up quick. When I bought my first motorcycle, I bought it out of pocket, right? Like, I obviously didn't, my parents weren't very on board with it, not at all. And my first motorcycle was a 2012 Kawasaki Ninja 250. It was a really like starter motorcycle. It's like just at the cusp. Like, once you go below 250, you get in like the dirt bike or like Vespa territory. So it was a very, very like entry level bike. And I bought it really cheap. I remember I got it on OfferUp. I vetted it. I went over there with a friend who was more experienced, and we looked it over together, and he's like, all right, we're talking. And I got it for $850 out the door, which was like a really good deal for that bike. It was just back before the pre-owned car market exploded. So I got a great deal on it. And then I bought that bike. I, finished all my training. Once I started riding it, before I started riding it, I was like, I'm going to start riding soon. I need to go get some gear. So I drove over to the gear shop. And I was like adding things to my cart. I went with a friend. We were like talking about stuff, looking up ratings. Like, this is what I should get for helmets. This is what I should get for gloves and everything. And the total came up to be like $1,200. Yeah. I'm like, $1,200? That's more than I paid for the entire motorcycle. $1,200. And no, it's so important. So important. Every aspect of my gear like saved me in some sense, like physical damage. So like you got to do it. And another thing people don't realize is insurance covers your gear. It's part of your accessories. Yeah. So like if you get in an accident, your helmet, your jacket, if you have the receipts, even if you don't have the receipts, you go back to the store, give them your credit card information and get a dialogue.
They'll give you
it back. They'll give you, it's part of your car deductible. So that was huge. But the funny story is on the back plate. I remember I was sitting there in the checkout line. And it was like $1,150, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I told you the total was $1,200. So it was like $1,150. And I had my jacket, but the jacket doesn't come with the steel back plate. It comes with the armor plates on the sides and on the chest. And it was like, I remember there, and the cashier was like, hey, do you want to get a back plate? Your jacket has insertables, meaning you can like buy a steel plate and slide it in. And I was sitting there in the checkout, and I was like looking at the thing, and I scrolled up and down. It was like $1,150. And he was like, it's about like $50. And I was like, all right, I should probably get it. I'll get it. Get it. And that $50 ended up like saving my butt.
Yeah.
When I got it, like I don't know, man. So
it's crazy how that universe works like that.
Yeah.
Like
this was the one
cashier just recommended to you, and then it happened.
And I'm not usually a fan of getting upsell, but in that case, I'm very glad he recommended it. I'm very glad he recommended it.
Yeah, that's crazy though. And like it's good now that with modern medicine and stuff, like they're able to do these things where like say 100 years ago, I mean, you'd been fucked. Like nothing would have happened.
You would have been. You would have been in bed, needing to be taken care of for about a year. But on that topic, it's pretty cool because when they said that I needed surgery for my arm, because my arm was like broken, like at the accident site, I had 2 elbows. Is the way that they put it. Yeah. So when they straightened it out, and I was in the hospital, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna need surgery to fix it. But you have 3 options actually. The first option was no surgery. You don't have to wear surgery. Actually, you don't have to do surgery. Actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna straighten it out. And then we'll cast it in place. And
it's going to heal by itself.
We'll have a cast for about a month. And then after that, we'll take off the cast and put a splint for another month or 2 months. And then after that, we'll put you in like an elbow sling for another month. And it'll be healed. But it's not going to be healed perfect. There's no way it'll be healed perfect. It's going to be healed with a little bit of a curve. You might not get full strength back. It may break again. We may even have to break it on purpose again if it heals wrong.
Damn.
But no surgery, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the options. And then the other 2 options were different types of surgery. I could either get a plate installed, which is what I ended up doing. It's more, they have to cut you up a bit more invasive, but it has better long-term effects. Or we could do a rod, which is a little bit less invasive, less surgery, but you might have some long-term effects.
Like infections or whatever?
Yeah, no, not just infections, but like when you get older, you might, because the rod gets inserted from your shoulder. So when you get older, you shrink a little bit, stuff like that. You might get shoulder pain.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll go for the plate. I'm young. I can take the surgery. I'll heal up. And like I'm able to flex it. I'm able to move it now. And it's just been like a couple weeks and I was able
How
to
long did the surgery take? Like
surgery took about like 6 hours.
6 hours.
6 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's bizarre. And I was looking at it, the way that they do it, it's crazy. But I remember
they put you under though, right?
Oh yeah,
like,
they put you under. Yeah.
So you don't feel anything.
But on the topic of modern medicine, right? And people's like skepticism of it.
Yeah.
I was talking to the doctor when he was telling me all these options, and obviously I was asking questions, going back and forth, like, all right, what's the benefits of this and the cons, right? And then he was explaining to me the no surgery option, and I was like, oh, it's not going to heal correctly. It's going to take easily like 4 to 6 months longer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to come here like every 2-4 weeks and get checkups and stuff like that. Like, why? But there's like, what's the benefit? Oh, no surgery. But like, what?
Yeah.
What's the it's going to actually cost more coming,
Really?
all these appointments and stuff like that. It's like, some people just don't want to do surgery. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, what's the success rate for this arm surgery or this shoulder surgery? It's like 99%. Wow. 99%. And I'm like,
it's
what's
like
the risk of like long-term
right?
effects? He's like,
yeah.
Nothing. It's like realistic. Like I wouldn't be able to tell you that there's no risk, but
there's not that many.
He's like, I put metal in people every day. Like, that's his job. That's
crazy.
the success rate. But yeah, some people will do it. A lot of people do because they just don't trust surgery, don't trust doctors, hospitals, and they go through this rigorous process and they don't even fully heal.
I know.
Like they don't even fully heal. So
that's crazy though. Like
I'm thankful.
There's a lot of people. I mean, especially I'm talking about. I don't know about a lot, but through my experience, whenever I go to the gym or something, people are talking, and I sometimes listen. And they're always saying like that insurance is like crazy and don't trust the medical professionals, especially during the coronavirus stuff. People were a lot of distrust between the government and the medical
definitely
group. And so I think there is a point where you shouldn't believe everything that people say, but at the same time, have some faith and some confidence in people that are trying to help you.
Oh yeah.
You know, like especially with the vaccine and other like surgeries, like you said, we've gotten up to this point because we as a society believe that we could help people. Yeah. You know, even if you have like a broken leg or something, we could try to help fix that, even if it is surgery. And yes, some people do have bad surgeries happen to them and it doesn't go as well for them. But for the most part, like you said, 99%, what's might as well for the long-term benefit of your life.
And you got to think of like your situation. Like, man, like your arm is broken, like broken. Like obviously nobody wants to do surgery. So if you're given an option to fix it, fix your arm, and it's a 99% success rate, like,
might as well.
You got to do it. You got to do it in order to heal up. But like, it's really interesting. You talked about like distrust and stuff in general. Yeah. I think I remember I was having this conversation a couple months ago. Because obviously distrust around medical stuff right now is huge in the world all around. There's just so much misinformation and ways to get confused. Or I feel like it goes back to like this age old like college humor skit where it's like Google. Where someone was like looking up something and there's like, you have 3 million results that tell you yes. And there's one result that tells you no. And then they grab and like, I knew it. It's like, no. but around that, like regarding insurance, I know so many people give the medical system a bad rep because of insurance, right? And you have to realize those things are separate. Very, very separate. Almost like how many people distrusted the government on the vaccine because of the civil rights movement that we were going through. Like, yes, but it's separate. Like it's separate. Like vaccines are important, right? Yeah. Vaccines are important, right?
I know. There's no reason for them to like to put something in the vaccine that's going to cause harm. Like what is the incentive?
Right. I mean, it's billions of people around the world.
Everybody is trying to move past this pandemic
as fast as we can. Yeah, it's bizarre. But I feel like there's certain aspects of every industry, every profession where you have the good and the bad, and sometimes people look at the bad and then they associate that stigma across the entire thing. Yeah, like you're looking at insurance and then you connect it to hospitals, and now all of a sudden hospitals are bad. Or you're looking at the civil rights movement, all the horrible things that are happening, and then now all the government's bad, right? Yeah. And it's really important to try and distinguish and trying to figure out what these individual segments are. What's good? What's bad? How can I inform myself? And man, I wish I saw a little bit more of that in the world sometimes.
I know. It's important, bro. Like just having a better understanding for things. Don't always, like I said, don't always agree with everything. Right. But at the same time, do your own research and come up with your own conclusion to it. If you just listen to everybody else, like your friend group has this one opinion on vaccines or on any topic really, and you listen to that and you aren't looking at the other side.
Right.
That's where things get messy, because then you become like a radical, basically. Like that's all your attention is going on that one side. And you think anybody that believes the opposite, they're wrong without even like understanding where they're coming from.
I think there was the Netflix documentary about social media explains that perfectly. I really love the explanation of that. And in short, what it says is that social media is creating a lot of polarity. Polarity meaning that if you're on Facebook, your feed is designated to be just for you, right? Yeah. So when you're scrolling through stuff, whether it's just content from your friends, whether it's political stuff, whether it's information about the vaccine or any of those sort of things, you're scrolling. What you're getting is information that's tailored just to you. Everything that you read and learn, if that's your only source of information, that's all that you know, right? Yeah. And then everybody has a different feed. So for example, if all of my feed says that economics causes cancer, and then I'm talking to someone else and their feed says that economics is a social science that many students study in order to learn about the functions of money.
And that's beneficial.
Right? Yeah. But like, to me, it's like, what do you mean? For the past like 24 hours, all I've been seeing is this. Like, have you not seen this? Yeah. Like, are you dumb? Like, are you not reading this information? It's because everybody's like seeing what you described perfectly is everybody has their own world unless you diversify the sources where you get your information. Otherwise, it's going to be like, everybody around me is ignorant, right? And in reality, it's the other way around. It's the other way around. So no, man, it's a scary thing. It's definitely a scary thing.
It's crazy. And I saw a video, this was a while ago, but like there was somebody on Google saying, or there was somebody making a video about Google and saying like, you could type anything and it'll be true. Like he said, is coffee good for you? Yeah. And then there was sources that show coffee is good, and then he put coffee is bad for you, and that's what it shows. Sources. So sometimes it's difficult to have that like middle ground, but it's good to know information from both. Yep. Right.
Yep. And a thing on that topic too is that I feel on the social media thing is that it's all connected in the sense of, I always thought like there was no absolutes in the world. Like, especially, is coffee bad for you? Everything has pros and cons. A coffee's good. Yeah. In some ways, coffee's bad. Yeah. In some ways as well. Right. So the fact that many people go on information sites looking for just one singular answer without understanding the duality of many problems that we have in the world. I don't think most of the issues that we have in the world, the biggest ones, the issues that need to be addressed the most, don't have one answer, one definite answer. Right. And when we go on social media sites or search engines and we look up just this one side, is coffee good? When we're trying to get that one answer, that sort of instant, you don't. And if you do, it's not the complete story. Like when you look at things like in that sense, when you're trying to figure out a problem, most people will search up, is coffee good or is coffee bad? Not what are the effects of coffee, right? What are the effects of coffee? Through basic words is a much more advanced and sophisticated question because you're learning about both sides, the good and the bad, right? But I feel like many people, especially like when you get lots of instant gratification, lots of you need quick answers when that's what we're taught from school. When we go online, when we're having arguments, it's always just quick answer, as quick as we can,
just to prove the other person wrong,
or just to figure it out and move on. Like when there's no sense of exploring these basic concepts of what we do every day,
exactly,
we lose something. We do. And that's why like I always try and structure my questions in a unique way. Whether it's like I'm asking something for a job interview, like I have like these boxes that I want to check, like in the sense of, okay, is this question relevant? Is this question something that is personable to the person I'm talking to? Is this question going to tell me the full story? Like, I feel like if we just have those sort of like standards for the way that we learn our information, we would all grow so much. And it's a very basic thing to do.
It's very basic. It's so basic. Like one of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie, yeah. And that's those principles in that book. I believe every person should have a fundamental knowledge and just some of those principles, because it's so important to just the awareness of it. Once I read that book, I started to communicate with people a lot differently. That not because I wasn't communicating poorly before, but it was because I had awareness and just awareness of how the other person was going to feel if I said something. Right. That emotional intelligence, really.
Yeah.
And having a better understanding of if I want somebody to understand my perspective and they're focused on something else, right? How am I going to make sure that they're listening to me even though they're focused on something else or anything like that? He says, don't criticize or condemn. That's like one of the first principles, right?
Yes, it is.
And a lot of people criticize and condemn.
Yes.
And I've learned not to do that at all. Like it's more important for me to understand the person's perspective and learn from that. Like, don't just throw their idea out of the way. Right. Accept it, but you don't have to believe in it. Just accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
That's really important to me. And so many of those principles, if it's just implemented slightly in everyday conversation, you could feel yourself like growing as a person.
Yeah.
Like you feel
absolutely
better about yourself.
Yeah. That book was life-changing. Dale Carnegie is really a genius. Like,
it's a timeless book, man.
Yeah. Like, he was one of the first people that went out there and made a profession out of like public speaking, like Dale Carnegie. And he's so highly like respected, especially like among the community. Like my industry is business. Like I love business. I'm going to be working with a professional services firm. Those books are actually sponsored, like for free. Like if you're an employee at many different companies, whether it's business or tech or industry, like like many of those companies will buy that book for you because they want you to learn it. Yeah. And I remember I was reading a story that someone who was working at a very large company ended up joining as an experienced hire, and their manager said, "Hey, here's this copy of the book as a gift, like welcome. If you ever want to grab lunch sometime and talk about it, like I'm always open ears." And that's what he would do with every employee that joined the office. Yeah. Give him a copy of the book and say, "Yeah, let's talk about it and how we can learn from each other." Yeah. Right. And it was just it's amazing. And I know another fun fact that really like was so interesting to me is Warren Buffett has one certificate framed on his wall, and it's not his alma mater, it's not his school, it's not his business licenses, his billionaire certificate from Forbes. No, it's his certificate of completion of Dale Carnegie's seminar. Yeah, it's right there, framed above his desk. That's it.
That's crazy.
So it goes to show that we can learn from some great people in the world, and Dale Carnegie is one of them. Highly recommend that book to everybody.
Yeah, everybody. It's such a great book, and you know, we're always told as kids and stuff, knowledge is power, but we really don't get it until later in life. Like, damn, knowledge is power. Yeah. Right. That if you learn something new about yourself or about any topic, you grow as a person. Yeah. That's something about grasping that knowledge. And that's one of the benefits of the internet and social media, even though we talked about the cons of it, but it's that
tremendous benefits. Yeah.
It's like YouTube to me is probably the greatest website ever made. Yeah. Like, it's that I fucking
learned
insane.
So much from YouTube. I learned how to build a computer from YouTube. Literally, purely just from YouTube. Like I went from like trying to figure out how to add bookmarks on my Google tab to building a computer like 5 years later, just from watching random YouTube videos on the side. So
there's so much. Like anybody that has any type of knowledge shares it on YouTube. Yeah. And that's what freedom gives you, like freedom of creation, freedom of being able to watch anything. It's free. Like anybody with the internet connection and a phone can go on the internet and type in any YouTube video and watch something, learn something. And this is the first time in history where that's possible. Like I think a lot of people don't understand how big this is. Yeah. That it was not up until recently, people had to, read books and go to the library and you had to read a dictionary to find the word and the correct spelling. Yeah. But now, like if you type it up on Google, it'll show you the pronunciation of it. It'll say it back to you. You could translate words from English to French to Italian. Like you could learn so much. That in such a short amount of time that I think it's gonna greatly impact the human race. Like we'll definitely change a lot. Like this 20 years, 30 years, we'll be insane.
It is going to be insane. I think there is a story about what you were describing, how having to go to the library just to learn stuff, right? Yeah. I hope it's Abraham Lincoln. It might not be, but Abraham Lincoln used to do this thing where he would spend a portion of his wages just buying random books. Yeah, like I think any book he can get a hold of. Like it would be like a law book. or it would be a doctor book like on the medical field, or a book about history, but he would spend like, oh, there's a cool book for sale. Like he would come across them, right?
Yeah.
It's like now if I wanted to learn anything about the medical profession, I could just Google it, right? But he would be seeking out these opportunities to learn, right? And that's something like we have propelled ourselves in such a way that we can learn so much quicker now.
Yeah.
And I think that's really
going
to be
the freedom of it too. Like it's not like somebody's telling you have to learn this. I think if that's the case, then not many people would enjoy it as much.
Right.
But it's seeing the YouTube recommended page, or seeing like a science video, like Mark Rober. He's a great YouTuber that I watch sometimes, and he teaches a little bit of physics here and there, like he does some experiments, but I learned something new about that, like physics. But I wouldn't have learned it if somebody told me you have to watch this for this assignment or whatever like that.
Right.
It wouldn't be as enjoyable. But then that freedom of going on YouTube, seeing this video, and then they have the suggested bar with other related YouTube videos. So it gets you going like that. And of course, you don't want to be, you could do that the opposite way and just like watch cat videos and shit that doesn't even
get
matter.
sidetracked too. There's always the good and the bad, right? There's always the good and the bad. On this topic, there's something really interesting that I was reading up on, and we're talking about how the digital age has opened up so much information for us, so much capabilities to accomplish things, learn things, and all this. But it was an article or a video I was watching where it was, is there ever going to be a bottleneck? A bottleneck in the sense that if we look at how processing power, how information has been transferred over the past 20 years has grown, it's been exponential. Exponential in the sense, like 16 years ago, I was watching a YouTube video, and the YouTube video started with, so I finally found a website that would let me upload my video. It's like, And then now you look, anybody can upload a video on YouTube. And when you look at like the amount of content that we're able to get, it's like 3 million results for every search that you do on Google.
Every second somebody's like posting something.
Exactly. Right. So there's a lot of information out there, and processing power has increased exponentially. But when you think of human processing power, it's been standard. We cannot evolve quick enough, as opposed computers evolve on a huge curve. Right. And I find it difficult to believe that our intellectual capability has grown so much. Sure, average intelligence has grown, literacy, all these wonderful metrics, right? But the raw ability to process information is the same. Our brains are fundamentally structured the same as they were 100 years ago, especially 16 years ago, right? So what is that going to look like? Because I imagine, 50 years from now, lots of the industries at the edges of human discovery are growing like crazy, especially right now. Like if you think about it in the history of, because it's always interesting to hear about the Renaissance period and the scientific revolution that happened hundreds of years ago, right? We're in that right now. Like we are in a period that may be looked on in the future. We're in a period of great discovery where in the past 16 years we've made leaps. And it's going to be curious to think. I wonder what the world's going to look like when there's suddenly so much information that you can't cram it all into 18 years of education, right? Like when we learn so much about so many different fields, like we're discovering new things in the physics field about quarks, about matter, about the way that we're structured, the way that the universe is structured, right? Yeah. And how is that going to get added in to our curriculum? I feel like high school was pretty busy with all this stuff.
And it's something new designed. Like every year.
Every year.
I mean, every year is like an understatement. Probably like every month people are discovering something.
New photos of interstellar structures or all those sort of things, right? And I feel like it's going to get hard. There will be a bottleneck. Like the education system can't change every single month to adapt these new changes, these new discoveries. So what's that going to look like? What is that going to look like? I'm very curious to see. And that's something like, I say curious, but I'm also a little scared because like there's just a lot. There's a lot out there, and we all know this, right? And as much as I like to think that I'm smart, you're smart, many people in the world are smart, it still terrifies me. It still terrifies me to see that there's like so much information out there and like how we're going to grow to match that,
But I love the uncertainty of it, that I know that humans will get there. Like they'll find a way. Humans are very adaptable, and the fact that of course not the school system won't be able to grow, but the humans that will go on the internet, they'll grow and they'll find something. Because I mean, right now, with, like you said, there's so much information out here. Yeah. Sometimes there's things that I remember that I learned about, but I forget because I've had so much more information over over the course of like 2 years grow that something I learned 2 years ago, I just completely forgot about.
Right.
Like I thought I watched it, but then I was like, wait, I remember watching this, but now I have no memory of it because there's just so much information being thrown around. And I don't know if human beings will grow to the point where their memories get stronger or anything like that. But I know that it will, there's going to be more creation and more ordinary people you think that are ordinary, like just people who live in poorer environments growing from that. People are going to learn different skills, different ideas just from the internet alone that they wouldn't have gotten if it were just from their school environment that they were around.
Right. There was also, this was just something that because I've thought about this like a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And another thing that I was sort of thinking of is on the topic of like continuing to learn, right? Yeah. Like I feel now, like nowadays, like in the past 50 years, like this current, like, let's say era, like generation, right? Mm-hmm. We have been able to learn a lot of information and then reach the peak of discovery. Like we've reached the point of like, okay, but what now we don't know what's next, right? Yeah. Like for example, physics, you learn all these concepts of physics and then you start studying something, you start getting to the master's PhD level. And then it's like, okay, now we've gotten to the point where we got to keep going. Right? There's no information that exists right now. Yeah. So the thing that I'm curious to see is that still going to happen in the future? Because once we keep going right now, once you reach the master's PhD level, at that point, you spend 20 years of your life learning as much as you can, and then you've learned everything that currently exists. Yeah. And then 5 years from now, you might need to spend 25 years in order to learn all that exists. And then another 5 years, you might need to spend 30 years of your life before you can finally understand how to do what's next, right? Yeah. So as we keep going up and up and up, and as there keeps adding to the pool of what we need to know in order to get to the breakthrough stage, are people going to keep going through that process? You know, are people going to keep wanting to spend 20 to 30 years before they can figure out how to understand what's next, right? Like it's just going to keep growing and growing. Like when I'm thinking about psychology, that's a big field that's growing. When I think of the medical field, we don't even know how, like, for example, I went to the doctors and they were saying like, yeah, you need to take some vitamin D in order to help your bones grow faster, right? Or to help you heal quicker. But we actually don't know how much vitamin D you need. Like really? no one really knows. Like that's why if you go to Costco, they sell 50 milligrams, 1,000 milligrams, 2,000 milligrams, like, cause no one really knows how much you need. Right. Like, wow, that's
like
interesting.
They just know that you're deficient. And so that they give you something.
Yeah. And it's like, there's certain things like that when we think of oceanography and the oceans, right? There's so much information we're going to need to like figure out and learn, and space. Don't even get me started on space. Yeah.
Like speaking about the ocean though, recently there was an oil spill in Huntington Beach, right? And I read this article, I think yesterday, and they said, we don't know when to allow the public back into the beach because there is no like scientific way that I think the company they hired, they only have tests for bacteria in the ocean. They don't have tests for oil levels. Yeah. So there's that's also something that just boggled my mind. Like, damn, we don't, there's still stuff out there that people are trying to grasp. Yeah. And that understanding of it. Yeah.
I just hope that continues to exist, that passion, that thing, that there's still something to continue to learn. Yeah. Because my fear is that 50 years from now, if we figure out a lot more stuff, then there's going to be a lot less of those questions that we're going to be able to ask, and people may not be willing to go down that long path. Like when I think of people that are interested in physics, they're always very passionate about the fact that there's just so much to explore, like so many different ways to go down, and they study very long, because in order to get a good career in physics, there's a lot of education required, right? Yeah. And as that sort of barrier of entry to enter this field increases, I'm hoping that people continue to do it. Yeah. Because I can imagine that, like, oh, I'm interested in physics, but it's also going to require 50 years of education. Like, I hope people still do it, because I think it's important and I think it's really, really cool. But like, information's always increasing. And like I said, we're not getting any quote unquote smarter. Yeah. Like intellectually processing power wise. I know. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And speaking of like space and physics and stuff, I know you probably know Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist. Yeah. Like, he's one of my favorite people to go and listen to about that stuff, because he's knowledgeable. Like I trust his knowledge on space, and I know he does his own studies and whatnot. So whenever he talks about space and he was talking about that there's different dimensions and stuff like that. Like there's 11 dimensions or something crazy. I don't know. But what that makes you think, like, if that's possible, like what else are we not thinking about that's out here?
Yeah.
You know, to me, I don't think we'll ever get to the point where the desire for growth goes away.
Yeah.
It's always going to be something more that we're going to try to uncover, like chase after. Like the cavemen, they didn't go outside their cave because they thought it was dangerous, but one person probably went outside and started to discover new things, and then that led to a new invention, and then it just keeps uncovering itself over and over and over again until, you know, I mean, I don't know if it probably just goes on to infinity. Like there's really no stopping this universe. Like the universe keeps expanding. Like, you know, that it's weird just to think about, like, if the Big Bang Theory is real, that everything just came from nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to wrap our human minds around something that we just can't comprehend.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, it's bizarre. And like on the topic of like,
but it's still crazy that we do understand so much though.
Yes.
Like out of all this stuff, we understand a lot.
Yeah.
More than a lot of animals or like just we're the most intelligent creature on this earth. And as of now, the universe, because we don't know if any life exists outside, but who knows? We're looking for that too.
Yeah.
We're looking for that.
We have a lot of stuff up in the air, a lot of open projects.
Yeah.
A lot of open projects.
Yeah. It just keeps growing and growing. But I mean, I think that growth is what we desire the most.
Yeah.
Like as human beings, the worst thing you could do is be stagnant.
Yeah.
And I think that's our most, what's the word? We hate being in that state. We'd rather be going somewhere or like going back. Like we don't want to just be stagnant in anything. So if you're going back, you learn that, okay, I need to keep going and move forward, or else I'm just I'm gonna keep going back. But that the growth of knowledge, the growth of understanding who we are, our human capabilities, you know, every time a new record is broken, like you look at sports and stuff, people are always improving themselves. So it will always, those records will always continue to be broken and new ones will always be created because that's who we are. Like there's something inside of us. I don't know what it is, but that just the desire to grow in some direction, an idea comes into your mind and you take action on that. And another idea comes and you take action on that. And it's just a cycle that makes us who we are.
This is a very cynical take to that, but that's actually, you know, perceived by many philosophers as a blessing and a curse. Yeah. A curse in the sense that that exact thing that you described is the reason why we will never be able to live in a utopia. If you think about it, which really sucks. It really sucks. Like the reason that we will never be able to live in a utopia, a perfectly harmonious society, is because of that drive for passion. Like what you said, if we can't go forward, we're going to be trying to find a way to go backwards. We can't just stay stagnant, right? And that's very difficult. That could, like I said, it could be the thing that got us so far, and it could also end up being our downfall. So, very interesting to think of it in that perspective. It's very cynical, like what I said to say. But yeah, no, that's why. Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot for sure.
To me, though, I don't know if you believe in the yin and the yang of things, but to sum it up, it's basically when there's light, there has to be dark.
Right.
And when there's up, there's down. When there's front, there's back. There's always been a contrast in the universe. And I don't know why. Like, who knows why? I mean, if you ever find somebody that created the universe, tell them why it was like this, because I would like to know. But I really don't question that. It just is. Like there's something about this universe that there's always a contrast of everything. There's always been, when the sun goes up, it goes down. There's the cycle of it. And when I look at that, I think now, because of that understanding, I've began to appreciate both.
Yeah.
You know, when bad things happen to me, instead of worrying or doubting and having bad emotions about it, I just accept it for what it is and know that good things have to come out. Like, because if one thing happens bad, something good has to happen. Like, I believe in that. I don't know if it's true, but if you believe in the yin and the yang of things, that's just how it has to happen. Yeah. Because it's how it works. Like, to me, I believe in it. And a lot of it has to do with belief. Like, if you believe in something strongly enough, that is the outcome you will perceive, because everything is how you perceive it to be. Yeah. That's your reality. Yeah. You know, people talk about, well, you're not thinking in terms of reality. Well, what is reality? Like, everything, there's no way you could comprehend what reality is, because you're only a human in this body. Mm-hmm. There's no way you can understand how life actually is. Yep. You can only understand it as how you perceive it. That's it.
It's also Abraham Lincoln quote, perception is reality.
Yeah, perception is reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. It was right on something you said. I'll come back to it. Okay. But no, I just remembered. Yeah, that's a great quote, because I believe he used it in the context of trying to understand people's opinions, right? And how they feel about things. I know Abraham Lincoln was referenced a lot by Carnegie in his book as well, because he really lived by that concept. So, I agree. It's incredibly important.
Yeah, it definitely is that perception, and that's what everything is, and it's the understanding of it that allows you to have the freedom of being able to communicate with everybody. Right. Right. Understanding that one person's life might be completely different from yours, and you might not know everything about them, but just knowing that they have a different life than yours, that's the biggest thing. You don't have to know what exactly the details are or any of that. Yeah. Just have that awareness.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Mm-hmm. It was about the words.
Pull this up a little bit.
Yeah. It was about the words good and bad. Mm-hmm. The words good and bad, where fundamentally good and bad can't exist without each other. So you were talking about how the bad things help you appreciate the good things, right? Well, they're relative terms. Good and bad are not objective. Like it might be easy to think about them that way. Like, yes, I accomplished this, and this is a good thing. So then therefore, like, this was something that was benefiting people, it was positive, so it's good, right? Yeah. But good actually means that it's better than bad. And then bad actually means that it's not good. Yeah. Like, that's, if you really think about it that way, if you don't have things that are bad, you cannot have things that are good. Yeah. And if you don't have things that are good, you can't have things that are bad. Like, that's the thing. Like, they're very relative terms to each other. So they're equally as important. Like that's a great mindset to have, because otherwise you'll get fixated too much on one and you lose sight of the other. Yeah. Like there's so because easy to do that.
Each makes you have to believe in one. You have to believe in either one.
Yes. Right? Yeah. So like, if you're focusing too much on like all the bad things that have happened, you're never going to see the good. Yeah. Yeah. And if you focus too much on the good things, you're never ever going to see the bad things coming. Right. Yeah. And it's very important to realize and appreciate both equally. Like I've used that philosophy a lot. It's helped me so much in overcoming my challenges and like being put down like in certain scenarios, but like it always ends up coming around. It's really made me help appreciate the good things that happen to me as well. So
yeah, both of them are needed. Yes. I don't think you can live without one or the other, because that's the experience. Yeah. Like, as a human being, you get to experience that. Like, to me, being in this form is like we're not actually our bodies, but we're something else. Yeah. Like, that's what I believe. And we're here to experience the duality of everything. Like, that there's good things and there's bad things, but experience both. Don't think that it's that your life sucks because you're in this circumstance. Right. You have the ability to change how you perceive that circumstance. You don't have the capability of you might not have the capability of changing the circumstance around you, but you can perceive it differently. Yeah. that like you had an accident.
You have that power.
You could have said like, fuck this sucks.
Yeah.
You know, like, but you decided like, this happened to me. I'm not gonna,
you gotta keep going.
You know, I'm not gonna cry myself to sleep every night. You know, I'm just gonna push through it. And I know that I'll be a better person because of it. And I'm grateful to be alive, you know, like all those 100%, ideas, right?
100%. Yeah. I remember, one of my friends was talking to me about that. Actually, he's like, how the hell are you like so relaxed about all this? Like I would be freaking out. Like my arm is broken. I'm gonna have to wear a brace for 3 months. Like, and when you were sitting there, like in the hospital bed, like in my first day after my accident, I was just like cracking jokes, relaxing. Sure, I can give credit to some of the Norco because that was doing its job with the pain and stuff. But like it is what it is. Like I had already just moved on to it and was focusing on what the next step was. And he was like, how the hell do you do that? Because it's hard. It's a skill that you have to train too, like recognizing the good and bad of it. It's not something that came naturally for me.
Yeah, like, definitely not.
One of the most like devastating things that happened to me, and I remembered it very, very vividly. It's such a small thing too, is when I was a senior in high school, I applied to be like drumline captain. I applied to be drumline captain, and I went through like an interview with the band director, and I was super, like I'd done music for 6 years, super passionate about the activity, my team, everything. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. And I was so like sad. Like I was so sad in the sense of like, man, I don't have this role. Like I won't be able to start off all of our rehearsals. Like I want to be able to like take initiative and do this, but I just didn't get it. Right.
Yeah.
And and this is like a moment of like weakness. I spent that entire year just like not enjoying it. I spent the entire year being critical of the person who did get it. I spent the entire year losing my passion for the activity because I was no longer, you know, I didn't get that position that I really wanted.
And you were stuck in the past.
And I was stuck. I was just focusing on just the bad.
Yeah.
Like it was my senior year. There were some like small glimpses in there where we had a wonderful time, like championships or like after our first show or like when we were in the concessions waiting for the awards to be announced. Right.
Yeah.
But like that year, which is not good. Like I learned a lot from that year moving forward. I was like, man, I didn't get it, but I totally just like shat on everything else, like for no reason, like literally no reason. And yeah, so like moving forward, I definitely learned from that experience. Like I definitely learned from that experience. I don't let those things like nag me down anymore. Like, like I just got up and I just kept going. Like that's that's the best way. Like that's the best way to do it. Like, sure, it might've been easy to just like get stuck on it and just, you know, be sad, but I think I was looking back, I was like, I would have been better off if I had just suffered through it for like a while and then tried and have fun. I would have had fun. I would have had a lot more fun.
Had fun.
So that, I take that same philosophy forward. I ain't going to make that same mistake twice.
Yeah. We learn from our experiences and other people's experiences. And I've definitely learned that from both. Like I've listened to a lot of speakers talk about that. And the biggest takeaway that helped me was to not resist it, but to accept it for what it is. It happened. So like, and it might not be what I expected or what I wanted the outcome to be, but that's what it is. And I could look at it from two perspectives, or there's a bunch of perspectives, but you could look at it from the good or the bad. And that's a choice that each individual person has to make for themselves. Like, I'm not going to tell you that you have to do it like this or that you had to think good, but like, just know that if you think positively about a situation, you're going to feel better about yourself.
Oh yeah.
You know, and not only are you going to feel better, but like the people around you feel better. When you're a positive person, that energy gets dispersed to everybody, like your family, your friends, everybody feels it. And when you're negative, and I'm not saying that if you're in a negative spot that
you have to fake it.
Yeah, you have to fake it. No, just accept that too. Like everything that I'm saying is, no matter where you're at, learn from all of it.
Right. Don't
just think that since I'm talking about positive, like, why am I not positive and try to get out of that state? It's accepting it. Okay, this is what's happening right now, but I'm going to try to learn from it and see the positive outcome of it. And I think even your experience of having to deal with that for a year, like that taught you afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? The benefit came after that. Like that 1 year, that was shit, but the year after that, then you learned.
Yeah.
So it might not come right away. Like the positive,
right,
you won't see it right away. And that's why some people choose to live in the past so much, because they they think that whatever happened to them, that's who they are.
Yeah. And
when
that's
really it's your perspective could change like right now. Like you could have a different idea about yourself and
100%.
it will change. Yeah.
100%. No, I absolutely agree on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a powerful way of living that thing. And speaking of drumline and stuff, I know last time we talked about your TED Talk and stuff, but now we're on the stage of the TEDxCSUF has become like a big thing now, right?
Yeah. It's become quite a bit. I mean, I've been busy with lots of personal projects. Like I think this last year, I don't know if the last time we talked, did we get a chance to talk about MHI, Master Heroes Initiative?
No, I don't think so.
So I'll run through that too. Well, TED, I'll start with TED. TED, we have our second annual conference. This time it's going to be in person. October 23rd.
The first in person?
Yes, first in person.
That's
one.
what I thought.
Yeah, October 23rd. It's going to be on campus. It's been a long time in the running. We started auditioning for speakers in March. And now we have about 12 speakers. We're on the cusp of potentially getting Dr. Virgie, who is the president of the university's wife, who also runs a nonprofit. And she's maybe potentially speaking, but we're sort of like working with her on a last minute add-in because she was interested.
Yeah.
But we have lots of other amazing speakers, students, faculty. We have someone from the drone industry flying in from Florida to come talk to us about nature and photography, which I think is fun. Really cool. And he hired an animator for his talk, like to do his speech.
That's great.
It's like it's going to be awesome. So we've been working a lot. We've grown quite a bit. We've done 2 student-centered conferences of our own called Titan Talks. Where we've helped build professional speaking skills and brought professors to take like pro bono time to come and talk to students on how to build a speech from step 1 to drafting an idea to step 5 to presenting it on a stage. So we've been busy. We've grown quite a bit. This is my last year, actually. So I'm looking to pass on the torch to someone else. We currently have a co-president who will be here one more year after me. And then we're trying to look for a VP who's either a sophomore or a junior that we'll be able to pass it on to as well. Yeah. But longevity, focusing on that for the time being. And then Master Heroes Initiative is a charity that I founded with one of my friends from high school. Actually, it started as a GoFundMe that he started. It raised about like 10 grand in 3 months at the very beginning of the pandemic. Yeah. And what the funds were going to be used for was buying PPE from abroad and then donating it to hospitals here, like N95 masks and all those sort of things. And he asked me to he asked me to join the team at first just to help out with like donating, sending out emails, reaching out to hospitals. I was like, sure, that sounds fine. That sounds like a cool thing to do, be active with the community, do my part and that sort of thing. And then it grew in the sense of like, the GoFundMe stopped getting donations. We had exhausted our immediate social media audience and it was like, how can we keep this thing going? Because we were doing some cool stuff. So we onboarded some more people on our team. We reached out to more people from our high school that went to different universities. We started doing outreach at each one of those universities. We started founding clubs, branches of our club at each one. So we have about 7 branches now at 6 different UCs and 2 private schools. That's amazing. 6 different UCs and 1 private school. We have about 150 members. We've donated more than, I think, $55,000 worth of PPE. Like, I think that's like millions of units. And it's been amazing. Amazing in the sense, like, if you had asked me a year ago, like if it would have grown to that big, I would have been like, hell no. But now, like, we're established as like a charity in the state of California and all that sort of stuff. It was a long journey, but it was a whole project that I've been doing. And I've learned a lot from it in the sense of like how to manage an organization that crosses from so many different schools, that donates and tries to foster relationships with big places like hospitals and clinics and stuff like that. We did 2 main partnerships. We're doing one right now actively. We did a partnership with 360 Clinic, which was at one time the largest vaccination and testing site provider. Really? So we would reach out to facilities and have them open up testing sites. So for example, reaching out to the Anaheim Civic Center or reaching out to Angel Stadium and being like, hey, can we set up a testing site in your parking lot for these days? We would help them with that outreach. And the impact we did through that was amazing because if we set up one testing site, they were able to test almost like 5,000, 6,000 people in a single weekend. And same thing with vaccination sites. We were helping them do that as well, setting up those sites and finding those locations. And the second thing that we did was we're donating PPE to healthcare workers in Vietnam. So raising funds for that, lots of collaboration across our different universities, partnering with different organizations. But really cool. Like it's just honestly really, really cool. Like I feel really great that we were able to do all of this like online too. Like really all of our stuff. All online, all through Zoom, all through social media, crowdfunding. All of our fundraisers were online at one point. Now we're just starting to do in-person stuff at each of the schools because we're allowed to go back to campus and have meetings and things like that. But we did all that online. And when I was like looking back at it, because I was actually updating my resume and my LinkedIn and CV with some of these accomplishments, I was like, shoot, we've impacted a lot of lives, like a lot of lives. Like we helped, I think, tens of thousands of people get tested, tens of thousands of people get vaccines.
And it just started with like an idea.
A GoFundMe, literally just one GoFundMe.
Yeah.
And we were like, all right, how do we grow it and grow it and grow it? And it became something cool. So a lot of bumps along the way too, for sure. A lot of bumps, a lot of periods where we thought like we were going to like shut down because it got slow, or we were like losing core people on the team as we were scaling. Like some people just like, oh, I joined because it was a GoFundMe and small, but now we're like growing a lot. I don't have the time for it. So we lost a lot of like original members of our team too. And that was hard. But
that's just part of the process, right?
Part of the process. Like, exactly. So, but that's what I've been up to. Lots of cool things on that front for sure.
Yeah. That's an amazing way to spread that kindness. Like, even though that there's a shitty situation happening, the pandemic and people are struggling, but what can I do to make a greater impact? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And speaking of the TED Talks and stuff, this is the first in-person event, and what time is it again?
This one's going to be Saturday, October 23rd on the CSUF campus and the TSU Pavilion.
Do people have to like get a ticket, or
yes, if you're a CSUF student, actually, you can come 100% for free. All CSUF students are invited. If you're not a CSUF student, I believe tickets are $5. $5.
Yeah, that's a great price for anybody, right?
Yes. Yeah, highly recommend it. We're going to have, like I said, around 12 to 13 speakers, all highly renowned. Like, it's going to be pretty cool. We're ranging from a lot of topics. We have a professor coming. It's a professional sexual education professor. It's super interesting, her talk. It's actually really, really funny and cool. Another one on fast fashion, like different types of fast fashion and like what that means and how we can be more sustainable. Photography, like I mentioned, I'm really excited for that one. So lots of cool stuff for sure. And all of the talks will, if you can't make it to the conference, all of the talks will be recorded and uploaded to TED on their official channel. So you'll be able to watch them on there and be able to learn from some of these CSUF professionals. Yeah, that's amazing. Like all the TED Talks, like whatever that organization in general, they know how to do it right. Like everything, all the speakers, I watch a lot of the TED Talks, and I get to learn from so many unique perspectives. Like there are people that have, like you said, nature, people who are interested in nature, people who are interested in cooking, like all these different aspects you could start to learn about. And that's incredible. Just having that resource available and ideas coming into your mind and learning from it. And it allows you to think, I enjoy this. I could try it, like that's how, I mean, how I did this podcast is like, I saw other people doing podcasts and like, let me give it a shot, you know? And I enjoy it, right? That's how we get to build as human beings. It's really cool. Like the slogan's ideas worth sharing. And there's just so many great ideas. Like some of it's like not even direct, like what you were saying, may not be directly applicable, but damn, is it interesting? Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think I really like the animator one. Like I can't pick favorites, but I really like that one. Cause when he came to audition, his pitch was like, he had a lot of experience in videography. He designs drone cameras for a living and stuff like that. I worked for a large drone company. Like designs the actual camera, like the architecture and how they record the footage and why they should record it, what they should focus on and the lenses and all that sort of stuff. That information just wouldn't fit in my brain. Like I don't know how the first step of how that works. No, I don't know either. Those drones go like 40, 60 miles per hour and it records like fully stabilized 4K footage. I don't know how they do it. But he wanted to do his talk on the Fibonacci sequence and how it appears in nature and how he uses that in order to design his cameras, because he designs his cameras in a very unique way that tries to capture nature in its very pure form. Pure form in the sense of like, he doesn't design cameras to just capture an image. He designs cameras to focus on certain aspects of nature that he can just like focus the technology on.
Yeah.
So like
the colors,
the color
Mm-hmm.
schemes and all that sort of stuff. And he says that he uses Fibonacci sequence for everything.
Really?
And he was giving me examples like Fibonacci sequence in leaves and like how the structures of the stems are. And like it fits perfectly along like that number sequence, or like even like the way that your body's proportioned.
Yeah.
He's like pointing this out, or like the ways that cracks are formed naturally in sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the hell?
That's
like
crazy.
this is like, I just never thought about this.
Yeah.
It was just like an eye-opening thing. So I'm really curious to see how that ends up turning out.
But like for me, like I don't know that much about the Fibonacci sequence. Like, so can you explain it a little bit? Like how?
Yeah. So Fibonacci sequence is like, it's this naturally reoccurring set of numbers. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I think it's like 1, 1. I don't want to butcher. It's like 1, 1, 4, 4, 3, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like people use it in the sense of, I think the way that it originates from is from a fractal image. So a fractal image it's an image that can be infinitely zoomed into. So like it's like a very unique shape.
It just keeps going.
It just keeps going and going. You can keep zooming in, zooming in, zooming in. And the way that it grows, I think, is through the Fibonacci sequence. Like it has that sort of like ratio to it.
Yeah.
But that ratio just randomly occurs in nature in many different ways. In like star structures, in the ways that our bodies are aligned, or other animals, in the ways that animals will form their hives or their homes.
Yeah.
You can apply the Fibonacci sequence to figure out a sort of way to structure it, right?
Yeah.
And he uses that same sort of thing to figure out how to capture images and how to structure his cameras and stuff like that. Because it's the most like common structure in the world. Like, and that's, I just think it's really cool. Like really, really cool. And the way to replicate that. And I feel like if you have a good understanding of this really basic principle of how things are structured, you can apply it in lots of unique ways.
Yeah.
Like if you can understand like the way that the world was created, like I can't imagine like what other things you could use with that information. You'd probably be one of the most smartest people in the world if you knew something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this very basic thing you can apply to almost anything. And that's why I really like it, because it's like a really unique idea worth sharing that many people can learn from and apply to their lives.
And implement.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's actually incredible. He's probably might be, I don't know if he's the first person, like he said, if he's the first person to use that type of technology, but it is incredible to witness somebody that has grasped that idea and then put it into something that then can be used by people around the world, right? They could use those drones and they could create stuff with that, right?
Yeah. And it's really cool. It's really freaking cool.
Yeah. I mean, drones have been, I think recently, maybe in the past like 5 or 6 years, have increased in popularity to where like anybody, like each of us can go out and like buy a drone.
Yeah. And they're a lot cheaper now too. But that industry as a whole has been growing a lot across a variety of sectors. Like my brother-in-law is an excellent example of that. My brother-in-law, he bought a drone. He was really interested in flying around as a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And when he made a YouTube channel where he would upload like his vacation videos, or he would go to like cool places like the beach and record these filmmaking videos. And he was reached out by businesses that wanted drone footage, right? And he made a professional career out of it. Like he started his own company and he started doing professional drone flights for retailing, for example, selling houses or businesses, or making a commercial or recording nature footage. He started partnering with other drone companies, right? And it's really remarkable now. And I was reading an article about drones and how they're starting to be applied to lots of different industries, like the oil industry, for example.
Really?
And you might wonder, like, how are drones going to be used in the oil industry? Well, fun fact, in order to do maintenance on an oil rig, which is thousands of miles deep into the ocean, you have to fly a helicopter out there, or in some cases, boat a helicopter out there and then take off from the boat in order to do maintenance and surveying around the rig.
Yeah.
But that is starting to change. Now what they're starting to do is either hire a drone operator to go to the rig and run a drone around as opposed to a large helicopter, or they're starting to make fully automated systems. There's a drone, like let's say, that launches from the top of the tower every day at 6. It takes a full circle flight around everything, and then it lands back at 6 on a charging pad, and then it does the same thing every day, and all the footage is uploaded. Right? But you can think about the amount of costs that are being saved, millions of billions of dollars over the year, right?
More efficient.
Exactly. And I've seen drones being used to take inventory for large companies, like, for example, a bread manufacturer that has these huge silos of wheat and you need to figure out how much wheat you have in a silo, right?
Yeah.
So they go and they drone to the very top and they look at the rim and they use that to calculate how much is left based on where the rim is, how many feet deep. So it's like super interesting. Like we're getting this whole new aerial view, like these cameras that we can now suddenly put up in the air and look and see whatever we want. It's not just used for a hobby anymore. It's like being used in a lot of business senses.
Yeah, a lot of business.
I think it's going to be one of those big industries that it's definitely going to grow a lot in the next like 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to be a big one because like it's not just used in filmmaking anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's starting to be used for business applications. And whenever something like that is starting to be used for business applications, we can look at tech as an excellent example.
Yeah.
When you're starting to use tech for wrangling data or making analytic choices as opposed to just going on AOL, it grows.
It grows. It definitely
like
grows.
It grows a lot. The industries grow. So I'm like, if I was going to bet on something, I'd say drones are going to be one of the big industries in the future.
I remember, I know that it started with filmmaking. Like, I don't know exactly where some films use helicopters and stuff, but some films use professional drones where they hook up the camera and everything. And then when I started watching like Casey Neistat, like that was probably one of the first introductions of drones. Like I know DJI makes some great drones.
DJI makes great drones,
And so I started looking at that. And then now you see the evolution of now businesses are being able to configure it in their own way to best support their needs, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just a camera anymore. They could put different sensors on it and use it for different things.
One of the most interesting application of a drone I heard of. There was a hedge fund that bought they contracted a drone flyer to fly over Tesla Gigafactories every day. For like they would do a fly and they would look at the lots every day. How many cars are in the lots every day? And they would hire a drone person to go and they would use that information to try and make hedge investments, like buy Tesla stock based on like how much they were producing. And because it was important, this was back when Tesla was like facing a lot of uncertainty. Like, are they actually producing cars? Like they had, like people were saying they have a lot of unsold cars in their lots.
So they just put a drone up there.
They have trouble like distributing the cars once they make them. So they would send out a drone person every day and they would contract them for like tens of thousands of dollars to literally just fly over. And it was crazy because I remember it sparked a legal debate about whether or not that was like insider trading or should be allowed, like going into the company's operational facilities. But FAA says that anything above, I think like 6,000 or 5,000, no, it's probably less than that. Like I think 600 or 500 feet is like international airspace. So it's all free. It's like you can't get mad if someone drones over your factory and looks at your lots. So no, it's like a wire, but it was such an interesting application in the sense of like a hedge fund hiring a drone flyer to make to get information for investments. Like, man, if that's not creative, I don't know what is.
I know, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And speaking of Tesla, though, I think I recently read an article about Elon moving the headquarters to Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And I saw this factory. Like this shit goes for at least a mile. Like it's one of the biggest buildings you'll ever see. Like
I think they do have the record for the biggest building.
Yeah, the biggest building in the world.
Yeah.
I like some guy was driving his car like on the street across from it, right? Parallel to it. And he had the camera and he was just recording on the side and it just kept going and going for a mile.
Yeah.
And they're still building it, but it's going to be insane to see the growth of
it's all. Yeah. It's bizarre because I think the way that the Tesla factory is structured is that a whole car can be made in 2 minutes because it goes down one line. Wow. Like it's one full line, like from like where the car starts and you put the chassis like all the way to the very end to where you have a finished car. It's all one line. And I think that's really, really cool. Like Tesla, I always like to say this, it's like it's a mutt company. A mutt because they've learned so much from different industry leaders. Like they got the one chassis design from McLaren. Like McLaren cars in the hypercar community are known because it's all one chassis. Like Lamborghinis have all these saw components, but if you look at a McLaren, you won't be able to find a crease where they inserted something anywhere. No, anything. Never. Anywhere. Like even the doors are integrated, everything in the chassis, right? So they took that design. And Tesla originally started by selling Porsche chassis.
Really?
Like they would buy old Porsche like frames and they would repurpose them to make them Teslas. That way they didn't have to make their own chassis when they started out as a company. So they always take these really cool ideas and then they put them in this way, right? So their gigafactories are really, really interesting accomplishments in the sense of I believe in California, the largest building used to be the Stanford Neutron Collider, and then the Gigafactory stole it. And it's just massive. The amount of batteries that they're going to be producing every second in that facility, the solar generated power that they have as well, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
And they're not afraid to try new things because it's a lot due to Elon. Like he's just that person that
He's
willing
very
to
all in.
is willing to risk to get something that he wants to achieve. Like it's the best or nothing at all. Like he'd rather do what he wants and he envisions it to be, or he wouldn't do it.
And the world gave him a limited supply of money to do it. So, I know Tesla as a company is very, very cash heavy, which is great for like all the innovation and investments that they're doing. No, it's like really, really good because like they're able to like normally like a company wouldn't be able to scale this large. Like no one can just build a mile-long factory that's going to take 2 years before it's fully operational. And then like they have the cash to do that.
And still are producing cars while
being an operational company at the same time. No, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. I really like and admire Tesla for what it is. It may not be the most sensical company in the sense of like how it's grown so much, and like people always like say that it's very overvalued, like this and that, because a large portion of Tesla's value is what people will believe it will grow to be, right? It has like an intrinsic, speculative value. So lots of investors knock on it for that reason. And lots of investors have lost out on lots of opportunities, me included. Like man, I wish I bought Tesla stock like a year ago, back when it was $200 pre the split. And now it's like I think I got $600 like
I think I got it at 200 something. And I didn't get a lot though, like probably like 2 shares or something. But that's it. Like
at first I was like, because I would look at the company and be like, all right, this seems like a little overvalued. And then it increased a lot. And I'm like, wow, this is really overvalued. And I'm like, but like every second I was like, no, but I don't want to invest because now it's got to go down. Like it's way too high. And then it would keep going up and up and up and up. And I was like, oh my gosh, and after I reached a certain point, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to admire this for what it is. This is pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
It's an anomaly for sure. One of its kind sort of thing. So
and it's amazing to see like that, the creativity of new businesses coming in, like their cars look completely different than everything else on the road.
The Cybertruck, man.
Yeah, the Cybertruck.
I don't know who designed that thing, but that's interesting.
I know.
That's interesting.
And even though it hasn't come out yet, like it's probably going to come out soon. It's been in the works, but just the willingness to take the risk to put out something that is going to benefit people and that is creative, and it shows the expansion that is possible. Like every truck you see on the road today, it's like mostly the same design. The same bed length and everything. Like, and people are used to it. The construction people that use trucks are fine with it. Like nobody's complaining. And so they just do whatever everybody agrees with. But here comes this company that sees a new way of looking at it and makes it like the glass bulletproof or whatever. And everything's like everything's steel. And so like, if you get into an accident in that, like you're probably going to survive no problem. Cause that thing is like built.
I'd be more concerned for the person that gets hit.
I know. And he said, I think last year or whenever it was released, he said all they're trying to do is now like shrink it a little bit because it was too big to fit inside a normal garage. So that's all they're trying to do is just have the parts ready, and the demand is there already. Like people have put in the deposits and the orders are already there. So and same with the Roadster, like that's going to be insane too.
Roadster's going to be insane.
That's going to be.
I actually have some mixed feelings about the Roadster. If you want to talk about that, my main concern with the Roadster is never before have you been able to buy a car that can go 0 to 60 in, I think it was like 2.4 seconds, 2.3 seconds.
It's for the Roadster, you're saying?
For the Roadster,
it's like 1.9.
That's ridiculous. That's like Bugatti like level. That's hypercar level. My bike, I used to joke it was called the Bugatti killer because it would go 0 to 60 in like 2.something seconds, 2.1 seconds. It was fast. It was a really fast bike. But that I don't know. The reason why I'm a mixed bag about it is because for 250 grand, you can go buy that car. And for 250 grand, you are suddenly put in a vehicle with so much power that I think it's gonna be crazy. I'm genuinely fear that people are gonna be gunning that thing because we were like in the car community. There's always the jokes about Mustangs and Chargers and souped up Supras and how people like can get a stupid fast car for a relatively small amount of money, right? But I think putting that much power in a rather inexperienced driver, because you look at the client demographic, they aren't the people that go in garages and build cars. Most of those people are generally like working class, white collar workers, working businesses have a nice like pool of money. If you normally wanted to get a car that goes that fast, you would have to dump a couple $1 million to get a hypercar.
Yeah.
And now you're just able to get one for 250 grand. And I just hope I don't see people wrapping them around trees. Like that's genuinely like my thing, because I think it might be a little bit dangerous. And that's not to say, and that's also to point out the fact that it's a fully electric car with so much torque, like so much torque.
I think
so much
like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. It's insane. Like
it is insane. It
like
is
1.9 seconds. Like, and he was saying, I think on Joe Rogan's podcast or something, that he's willing to put like rocket boosters in the back to and point it upwards, I think, to put more downforce on the car.
On it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you don't see that like you see that technology in Koenigsegg cars, which are like one of one, like $3 million vehicles, like where it has the downforce on the air. Like I don't know how I feel about like a 24-year-old who just got a job at McKinsey and is buying his Tesla Roadster, and then he's like, I don't know. Like I don't trust people with that much power sometimes, especially like on the public streets and stuff. Like it's just different. It's different. Like another thing too is you look at the motorcycle community. People can vote. You can go and get a vehicle like a Kawasaki H2 for about like 20 grand, and it can do way faster than what that Roadster does. Because that's a motorcycle that it has superchargers built into it. You can buy it for 20 grand. All you need is a motorcycle license. Yeah. And you can go 0 to 60 in like 1.8 seconds, probably on one wheel, but you can do it. And you look at those, like how people get hurt on those things very often, because you have a lot of overeagle people, very adventurous, daredevil people. And they're just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Let me just push it. And then all you gotta do is just mess up once and you're gone. Like you just, and it's very dangerous, and people get hurt a lot, and people do it. And it's not a judgment thing. It's not like I'm saying that some people don't have the capability to do it. I'm just saying that
when you put it up to everybody to decide that if they want it and they want it, and then what happens, right?
I just think it's a lot of power to put on someone for such a low barrier, right? So I think that's gonna be the biggest thing that I'm sort of concerned about. I hope I don't see people wrecking a bunch of Teslas because they're just like gunning it on streets and stuff. That would be very sad to see. Like I remember, it's a fun fact, like the e-motorcycle industry is growing a lot too. People are making battery powered bikes now. And someone asked Mus about it in a conference, and he's like, hell no, I'm never going to build a motorcycle. He's like, I rode a motorcycle once when I was 16, almost got ran over by a truck. Tesla won't be making motorcycles. And I'm like, okay, that's good, because if I saw people riding e-bikes, oh my God, that would be so bad. That would be so bad, because those bikes, like motorcycles by default are very torquey because they're very low weight, like wheels, horsepower to weight ratio. It's very high. So like you put a battery on that thing. I don't even want to think about it. So
it's gonna get to a point where if you want, like, it's a question about safety rather than performance.
Like just because we can make a car that can go 1.8 in 60 seconds for 200 grand, I don't know if we should. Like
should
it's reached
we, or should we leave it to like F1 cars or like stuff like that? You know?
Like that's stupid fast, bro. Like 1.8 seconds is stupid fast. That's like if you hit a bump on the road, like you're gonna lose control of the wheel fast. Like I don't know.
Even that new Tesla Plaid, right, or Plaid?
Yeah, the Model S P100D can go very fast, around that price. But man, I just don't know. I don't know, because like we have lots of regulations on like speed limits and stuff like that. We have lots of regulations on what we can do to our cars. Like you're not allowed to remove catalytic converter for the environment. You're not allowed to take out the engine gattle so like police cars, fun fact, they have an ECU, like computerized unit attached to the engine that controls how fast gas can be put into the engine. That's why, like, if you can have a Dodge Charger 2020, 600 horsepower, Hellcat, but you may not beat a 1998 Crown Vic police car. And the reason why is because those cars have those computerized units removed. So when they press on the accelerator, there's like a gallon of gas will go in the engine and combust at once. And it's really bad for the car. But like if you need to chase after someone, you won't beat a cop car. And those like Dodge Chargers, they may accelerate fast and everything, but they have those computerized units that will control how much gas will go inside for obviously safety reasons, longevity, but it's illegal to take those out. And we have lots of these regulations for our safety and for our rules and stuff like that. And I don't know. I'm not. But I don't want to regulate a Tesla car, but like at the same time, that's really fast, bro. That's like dangerous.
There's still no regulation on performance though. Like there's nobody saying like you can't build a car over 2,000 horsepower or something like that.
Yeah.
Something crazy, you know?
Yeah. No, it's just, I don't know. Like those cars are silent and they're quick and they don't weigh a lot. The Roadster, I think it's a very small, nimble car. I can't imagine it has a ton of safety features that you would have in like a truck or an SUV or even like a hypercar like Bugatti. So it's even like the G-force you would take from hitting something at that speed. I
know. There's probably a lot of science, and of course, Elon, it's good that Elon's and Tesla are doing it because he actually owns SpaceX as well. So they know a lot about the G-forces and they have that team there and that data ready to implement in cars or any safety things that they need to do.
Yeah. I'll see. I'm not one to talk though, because if I had the ability to afford one, I'd grab one for sure. Like 250 grand, 1.8 seconds. I think it's supposed to have full surround sound too. Like, I don't know. It just sounds like a really cool car, like a really cool sports car.
Some Logic and going like 100 miles per hour.
If I had 250 grand to spend on a really cool car, my choices at that point would be like a souped up BMW series or like an older like Lamborghini or something like that, or a top of the edge innovative technology 2020 Roadster. Like, bro, I think
there's no choice
for price. It's almost as revolutionary as the mid-engine Corvette that came out like. For 60 grand, you can get like a mid-engine Corvette C8 if you can find one. But like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. I love cars personally. Like, I know you do too.
Yeah.
But there's something about driving that is so like gets your senses all riled up. Like everything about that. And especially with gas cars, like I've driven electric cars and the speed is great, but there's something about the sound that an engine makes.
100%.
There's something about that gets you like, I don't know what it is, but it's a feeling that is pure bliss when hearing it.
I'm a car junkie through and through too. And it's different. It's definitely different. Driving like an electric car, like the biggest thing about riding a bike, like when you're riding a motorcycle is like they're really fast, but it's such like a visceral feeling. Like, it's like taking what you get from riding like a really fast gas 4-wheel car and then you just intensify it like crazy. So like when you're driving a bike, you can feel everything. You feel the wind, you hear the gas, you hear how the engine is responding to you on the throttle. And it's like almost as like it's an extension. Like the best way I put it is like the scene in Tron where like, you know, like they have the little sticks that make the motorcycles and they throw them into the air and they like get back on them. Like that's how it literally feels like that. Like you just pull it out and it's like, oh man, like suddenly my legs are now part of this motorcycle and you feel it like in between your legs. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's definitely a crazy feeling like that. And that's why I love the car community for that reason. Everybody sort of understands that mutual feeling that's pretty hard to describe to someone else, like how this machine is making me feel alive. But we all get it. We all get it.
We all get it, dude. I mean, I go on YouTube and I scour the internet for like car videos. I could do that for like hours. You know?
Oh, I've done it. I've done it for hours. I've done it for hours.
There's something about that, like just going and looking at drag races and all types of stuff like that. And it's a beautiful community. And I mean, it's sad seeing that cars are going all electric. Like you see the evolution of it going towards that way. And of course, one day it's going to probably just be all electric from now on, just for the environment. But until then, like enjoy what we have here. Like, you know, And this year, especially, a lot of car companies have gone all in on like the gas performance. Like Lexus put out IS 500, something like it's a V8. They would normally never do that. Like put a V8 in their base entry model, right? Like who would do that? But they did it because moving forward, they're going to have to do it electric. So might as well give it like one last hoorah before everything goes there. So it's a fun time right now in the car community.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
they're putting a
V8.
Oh god.
And then the I forget what is. It's either the Ram TRX, I believe, that has like a 1,000 horsepower truck. A truck with 1,000 horsepower.
Oh yeah. Speaking of like 1,000 horsepower, I think the Tesla Cybertruck can with the performance model does 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds as well. Like, what the like, why? Just so many questions. Why?
Because we can.
because we can. But because we can doesn't mean we should.
We should.
But oh my god, that's hilarious. When I heard that, I'm like, what? Did I hear that correctly? It's like, I remember every once in a while I'm on the freeway and I'm driving next to like one of these large trucks and I just hear them like gun on the engine because they're passing someone. I can hear it. I'm like, dang, that truck has to force itself just to get from like 60 to 80 and pass someone. And I'm just like, in the future, I'm just imagining like a roadster just diving in between, not a roadster, a Cybertruck going in between cars at like just 80 miles per hour. All you could hear
is the road noise. That's probably it. That's it.
Yeah, but that thing weighs like 4 tons or something like that. It's a huge car. It's just going so fast that I'm so curious to see what that drives like.
I know.
A 4-ton car that goes that fast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's got to be interesting.
Just the innovation though, like I'm glad that they're doing it, but at the same time, the safety is also important too.
So important, bro.
Yeah,
so important.
Yeah, but dude, the another thing about safety and cars and stuff, autonomous driving has been growing even since the last time. I think we talked about it in 2019, like on that podcast, we talked about it a little bit. But even now, like 2 years later, a lot more cars are having it now. Like in just 2 years, it's been an increase. And I even saw Audi make I forget the exact model, but it was like a prototype, and the steering wheel could actually go into the console itself and it could be autonomous. Yeah. And the actual car itself, like I forget what the front of the car could extend and go back and crazy. Forth, like just so that you could have a lower center of gravity in the car and make it more sporty, I guess. Or you could extend it and then it'll be autonomous. Yeah. And you could just sit there and
that's
the
wild.
car will
Those prototype cars are so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. Like I think now it's pretty standard for like all luxury car models to have like the guided auto cruise control. Mm-hmm. So like it keeps you within the lane.
Even my Toyota, like that has it. Yeah. The I forget what exact feature what it's called, but if you put on cruise control, it will keep the distance and it'll actually like brake to zero.
Brake and adjust the speed. And then this has been existing for about a year or two too, as well as the parallel parking for you and stuff like that. It's crazy. I'm very interested to see like what's in hold for autonomous driving, because I know Tesla. If I remember correctly, people call Tesla a software company in that sense too, because of the cool proprietary software that they have, and their auto driving is one of them. Like I think I know Apple was looking to invest in auto driving as their own. I know Google had one a while ago. I haven't been following up with it much, but
Apple was saying Apple didn't say, but there are rumors that they're making a car. Yeah, but who knows?
I think Musk commented on that as well. Someone interviewer asked him, he's like, if you want to hire 100 software engineers, it's pretty hard to keep it quiet. But yeah, I think there's going to be some competition on that end as well. I'm very interested to see what autonomous driving looks like, because I don't know. I think it's one of those things that I would really enjoy to see become mainstream. Like all cars become self-driving. And because if you think about it this way, the biggest thing to worry about with self-driving cars is people that are driving around you, right? So if everybody is using self-driving cars, the system essentially becomes fairly seamless. But I don't know if like that's a thing that I want or like necessary, because like we were just talking about how driving is like a really fun, awesome activity.
It's an experience.
It's an experience, and
to not live with it, it's I can't imagine now.
But it's bizarre. I'm very curious to see like what that'll look like.
I think it'll be more option based. More like if you want to have it autonomous driving in traffic, then you can have that option. And then maybe one day it might get to the point where the roads are integrated. Like if you go on a specific highway, you have to be on autonomy mode.
That's what I was thinking.
Something like that,
I'm just like, I wonder what that infrastructure is going to be. Who's going to figure that out? I was talking to my dad about this actually. He was like, I think in the future what's going to happen is that like in the near future, like before maybe some of the stuff that we're talking about happens, is if like these auto driving cars become a lot more mainstream, then if you have auto driving on your car and you get insurance and you use just auto driving, your insurance will be a lot lower, like a lot lower.
That would make sense.
And so you have the option, like all the streets on the streets, you're allowed to do self-driving or auto driving. But if you do auto driving, then your insurance is a lot lower. But if you want to do manual driving, you're going to have to like pay more. Like to do
just
that.
To do that.
Just to do that. So like, okay, I can see that making sense. I can see that making sense.
Yeah, and as more and more cars do that, I mean, as the years go by, the technology improves.
Yes.
And at the same time, the price goes down for the technology.
Yeah.
And so you see it in base level cars.
Yeah. Especially when more competition comes around. Because I think right now Tesla charges like $20,000 to get the software add-on for self-driving cars. And I think if with more competition comes out, they'll be forced to lower that price a little bit and make it more accessible, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah. That's going to be a big change.
This is another fun fact too with Tesla cars is all the cars are the exact same manufacturer model. Like, you know, like for Lexus, like the IS500 and then the IS500S might be different. Yeah. Like, you know, with the engine configuration, wheel configuration, all that. All Teslas are the same. Every model is the same. So all Model 3s are the exact same.
Really?
Yeah. The only thing that's different is the computerized software that allows you to utilize certain things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
I've heard about that.
I remember when there was the hurricane in Florida, Elon Musk unlocked all the Teslas in Florida to be full P100D supercharged models.
Really?
Yeah, because he was like, you know, people are going to need the extra range to get out. So he unlocked the batteries so that everybody could fully charge their Teslas as if they were fully kitted models.
Wow.
So like all the Model 3s were able to get the full 220 miles or something like that, as opposed to like the 180.
Yeah.
But that's crazy.
And he did that remotely.
He did that remotely.
Everything.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy that he was able to do that, but it's also crazy in the sense that when you're buying a Tesla, you may be paying like $35,000 for a Model 3, or you may be paying like $60,000 for a Model 3. And the only difference is like the auto driving software and like the dual motors or things like that. But all of that is like already included. It's just locked away. So when you think about it this way, they're charging an extra 30 grand for software. For you to like, you know,
and the cameras, like the cameras are already in the car and stuff. Yeah. And all it needs is like
it's
that
just
verification.
To be unlocked, right? So that price could be reduced. Like like they have a full control over how much they charge for that.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that once like Volkswagen releases their e-model and their auto driving, once Audi does it, once Lexus does it, that those prices will go down.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that'll be really awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna impact a lot of people, like just having that option to do that. Like if it might even get to the point where if you want to like send your kids to school, like you could just have them sit in the car and like, you know, take the kids or whatever.
My coolest idea that I read online is, I think this was, Musk wanted to do this for the Boring Company, was having a Tesla taxi service. Where you get picked up by a fully automated Tesla and then you just like tell it where you want to go, like on an app, and it just drops you off there. No driver. Yeah. It's just a bunch of cars running around and getting charged up and then running back around, fully autonomous.
Yeah.
That seems pretty cool.
That's insane.
Yeah. That seems pretty cool.
And like we said, the infrastructure is going to have to change, which it's due for an update.
Yeah,
like
it is.
The infrastructure.
It is.
I've said this before, like it's probably been developed, like how we interact like with cars and stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably been developed like over 100 years ago, maybe even less than that. But like how the traffic signal, I don't know when that was invented, but we still use that.
Yeah.
And I think we could do better than that. Like there's probably, there have been improvements to it, but how we structure our cities it's shown its effects. Like there's traffic.
Yeah.
It worked when there wasn't a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't that much traffic in, let's say, like 1960 in Los Angeles. There wasn't probably that much traffic. People got around and the infrastructure was built for that.
Yeah.
But now with, you know, the millions of people that are here, that same infrastructure doesn't hold up. And we're trying to put Band-Aids on stuff that we just need to like haul away.
Yep.
We need to haul away and put something else. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not like here saying that, like you got to use an idea like that. I know, because I don't know anything.
Yeah, I ain't no civil engineer, but I get what you're saying.
There are people who do have some ideas that just need the opportunity maybe to implement them and test it, see how it works. Does it work better than what we have now?
I've seen some cool ones on the Autobahn. Like they have stretches where like they have charging built into the roads.
Oh,
have you seen that? Where like you drive your car on it and your car charges while you're driving. I don't know how it works, but I thought that was so freaking cool when I saw that. They have like a 15-mile stretch or it's something like that, where it's just like charging your vehicle.
Charging.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting because electric cars are pretty big in Europe, especially Teslas.
Yeah.
I remember I went to Denmark like about 2 years ago, and everything there was Tesla. All the taxis were Tesla. Actually,
Wow.
every single taxi was like a Model 3, and I was like, what? Because like in the US, like those cars are super expensive or something.
Yeah.
And then we went over there, and everybody was driving Teslas in the taxis, and I was like, oh.
Damn.
Like that seems like a cool thing. I just think that it's a very awesome jump. Like, it really is. So
yeah, it's gonna be like this whole era has been just a jump from what we're used to, what we've been used to.
Yeah.
For the past like hundreds of years, like we've been doing things in this technology thing, computers and chips and all this stuff has transformed every aspect of life for us.
Yeah.
Everything. Like there's like none of this would be here without that. And I have no, like, it's not even taught in school. Like it's not really taught on how it's made. Like it's impacted our life so much, but I have not one idea how it's created. Like how did the people make chips that like those small computer chips? Like how's that made? Like, I don't know. Like who's the first person that thought of that idea? Yeah. Shit like that.
They're hella complicated.
You know,
a lot of my friends are electrical engineering majors, and they try and teach me a little bit about like semiconductors and stuff like that, like how motherboards are made for computers.
Yeah.
Oh man, believe me, to say it's complicated is a huge understatement.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Like every single thing, and there a lot of I remember there's a YouTube video I watched that really blew my mind. Like the extent you can like work with this technology if you know what you're doing. Someone took an old computer, like an old Dell like computer, a really old like tower that you might see like in elementary school, and then they like cut out the motherboard and then they like soldered it back together in certain spots.
Jeez.
And they made it. They fit the entire computer into a TI-84 calculator.
Really?
And I was like, what? Yeah, because they like made the motherboard like instead of being flat, they like made it like a almost like a curve, like a U curve. And then they like structured everything out and they like resoldered the bits. And I was like, oh my God.
It's insane.
Like, yeah, it's insane. Like if you know what you're doing, but it's like so complicated. Like who even, I don't even know.
Yeah. Like to me, whoever did come up with it, like that's an insane idea. Like cause if you like go back to somebody 100 years ago, like, 1920s, I guess.
Yeah.
And you told them that you could call somebody and not only talk to them on the phone, but you could have their face shown up and they could be halfway across the world.
Yeah.
And you just have to have something that's called an app to do that. And there's something called the internet.
Yeah.
And you could talk to that person and that's how we could communicate. And
that's bizarre.
You know, like they would not believe you 1 second.
Witchcraft.
Like, witchcraft.
They're float or sinky, bro.
Yeah. And here it is, like the people that took a chance on some idea that most people would probably think at the time, you're crazy. Why even work on this stuff? Like the internet's a fad or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people probably said that to people building companies on the internet. Probably like Jeff Bezos probably had to deal with that. Like his friends are like, why are you doing that shit?
A lot of people, because originally computers used to cost like $2,000 to get a very like minimal machine that required a lot of like learning to learn how to use, right?
Yeah.
And I know lots of people like faced a lot of like discouragement from getting into that. So
and then you see 20 years later and here we are, like everything played itself out and some companies lost, you know, they didn't do as well, but then other companies went on to become very successful.
Wish I bought some Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Man.
Bitcoin, nice. Bro. I think that's still in the early stages as well. Like that whole cryptocurrency, NFTs as well.
NFTs are very interesting to me. I know quite a few of my friends that have made some money off of NFTs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different way of art, I guess. Like having like just pictures, digital images, but authenticating it to the point where, you know, it's like a 1 of 1 or like 1 of 10 or whatever.
You don't even know that with the real art in the world sometimes, the ones in the museums.
Yeah.
I think it's happened many times in history where it's like it's come out that the real one is like not in the museum and like there's been a fake in there all along.
Jeez.
It's bizarre. But every time they get down some mob boss or mafia boss or some drug lord, they find a bunch of like hidden art.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, this looks real.
I know, this
like
looks real.
shit. I've been having the wrong one.
Yeah.
But like with NFTs, that doesn't necessarily happen.
Yeah.
It's like the original. I feel like that gives it a lot of value too.
Yeah.
The certainty.
Yeah. And it's going to be a matter of time, I think, that people bring more value to it. Cause right now it's in the early stages. Like nobody even heard about NFTs until maybe like this year. Right. And so when you start having more projects and more value and things that maybe ordinary people might be interested in, then you're going to get a bigger popularity of people purchasing and creating NFTs. Like, cause anybody could create it too, right? Like it's, you just put whatever you want, and there are probably websites that you just upload and stuff, NFTs, and it's on there. So fascinating stuff.
A lot of stuff to look forward to. For sure.
Yeah. Should we wrap it up here? I think it's like around 12 o'clock.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, we had a great conversation. Let's see if there's anything I want to say at the very end here.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a pleasure having you. Like this has been really fun. Like it's been an hour, I think 40 minutes. 40 minutes.
Time flies.
Time flies,
time
bro.
flies.
And every time like I have people like you on, it's always a fun time, and time always just like ceases to exist because we're just so in the moment having fun with this conversation. And thanks for coming on.
Oh no, the pleasure's mine. Let me know if you're doing one of these again. And then for next year. So we get 4 years in a row, 4 years running. I'll talk about that very quickly. Next year, I'm graduating this year, so I'm going to be moving to the East Coast, Boston.
Really?
And I'm going to be working in consulting. So I'm really exciting.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll be able to come back and talk to you about something maybe specific to that, because I find it really interesting. Working with mergers or large companies, figuring out more about industries, and it's just like it's a whole different world. Like I worked in my internship, and it's just, I learned. Like there's behind everything that we do, every water bottle company, every desk manufacturer, every office building, there's like a whole business behind it. It's a whole business. So
and companies and people that we've never heard of that are behind it, right?
No, so that should be a very interesting conversation.
We'll definitely link up soon, and we'll definitely talk about that.
All right.
But until then, thank you everybody for watching and listening, and thank you again for coming on, and peace.